New York has been ranked as the richest city in the world, outpacing cities like Paris, Singapore, and London. According to a survey by Henley and Partners and New World Wealth, 349,500 millionaires live in New York, a 48% increase over the last decade. The city boasts 744 centimillionaires and 60 billionaires. Meanwhile, London experienced a 10% decline in its millionaire population, dropping to fifth place on $30 million called millionaire / on $100 million called centimillionaire. Here are some of the top cities by GDP in 2024. New York City, the world's largest city economy, with a GDP that's nearly $1 trillion larger than the next biggest city. New York City also has the highest net worth individuals, HNWIs, in the world, with 349,500. The Bay Area, a tech hub with 305,700 HNWIs. Tokyo has 298,300 HNWIs. Singapore has 244,800 HNWIs. London has 227,000 HNWIs. Los Angeles has 212,100 HNWIs. Paris has 165,000 HNWIs. Sydney has 147,000 HNWIs. Hong Kong has 143,400 HNWIs. Beijing has 125,600 HNWIs. HNWI stands for High Net Worth Individual. Definition: a person with liquid assets of at least $1 million, excluding their primary residence. Their characteristics: HNWIs are often self-made professionals, entrepreneurs, or those who inherit large sums of money. They are typically between the ages of 40 and 60. Why is New York City so rich? New York City has Wall Street. The Wall Street area is home to the New York Stock Exchange, the world's largest stock exchange by total market capitalization, as well as the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and commercial banks and insurance companies. Several other stock and commodity exchanges have also been located in Lower Manhattan near Wall Street, including the New York Mercantile Exchange and other commodity futures exchanges, along with the NYC American. Many brokerage firms owned offices nearby to support the business they did on the exchanges. The economic impacts of Wall Street activities extend worldwide. Importance. As an economic engine in the New York economy, finance professor Charles R. Geist wrote that the exchange has become inextricably intertwined into New York's economy. Wall Street pay, in terms of salaries and bonuses and taxes, is an important part of the economy of New York City, the tri-state metropolitan area, and the United States. Anchored by Wall Street, New York City has been called the world's most economically powerful city and leading financial center. As such, a fall-off in Wall Street's economy could have wrenching effects on the local and regional economies. In 2008, after a downturn in the stock market, the decline meant $18 billion less in taxable income, with less money available for apartments, furniture, cars, clothing, and services. Estimates vary about the number and quality of financial jobs in the city. One estimate was that Wall Street firms employed close to 200,000 people in 2008. Another estimate was that in 2007, the financial services industry, which had a $70 billion profit, became 22% of the city's revenue. Another estimate in 2006 was that the financial services industry makes up 9% of the city's workforce and 31% of the tax base. An additional estimate from 2007 by Steve Malanga of the Manhattan Institute was that the securities industry accounts for 4.7% of the jobs in New York City, but 20.7% of its wages, and he estimated there were 175,000 securities industries jobs in New York, both Wall Street area and Midtown, paying an average of $350,000 annually. Between 1995 and 2005, the sector grew at an annual rate of about 6.6% annually. A respectable rate, but that other financial centers were growing faster. Another estimate, made in 2008, was that Wall Street provided a fourth of all personal income earned in the city, and 10% of New York City's tax revenue. The city's securities industry, enumerating 163,400 jobs in August 2013, continues to form the largest segment of the city's financial sector and an important economic engine, accounting in 2012 for 5% of private sector jobs in New York City, 8.5%, $3.8 billion of the city's tax revenue, and 22% of the city's total wages, including an average salary of $360,700. One of the New York Stock Exchange's requirements was that brokerage firms be clustered near Wall Street so that staff could deliver paper stock certificates each week. There are signs that as early as 1911 Midtown was already a hub for financial services transactions. But as technology improved, in the mid to late 20th century, computers and telecommunications replaced paper notices, meaning the proximity requirement could be circumvented in more cases. Many financial firms have discovered that they can move to Midtown Manhattan, just 4 miles, 6 kilometers away, and still operate effectively. For example, the former investment firm Donaldson, Lufkin & Jenrette was described as a Wall Street firm, but its headquarters were on Park Avenue in Midtown. One report describes the migration away from Wall Street. The financial industry has been slowly migrating from its historic home in the crisscross of streets surrounding Wall Street to the roomier, more glamorous office towers of Midtown Manhattan. Morgan Stanley, J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and Bear Stearns have all moved north. However, the main attraction of Wall Street is still the New York Stock Exchange building. Some old companies, such as Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, acquired by Bank of America in 2009, remain loyal to the financial district location, while new companies such as Deutsche Bank have also chosen financial district office space. So-called face-to-face transactions between buyers and sellers remain the cornerstone of the New York Stock Exchange, with the benefit that all participants in a transaction are within easy reach, including investment bankers, lawyers, and accountants. The U.S. economy is very strong. After Trump implements the America First policy, the U.S. economy will be stronger than before. The Economist recently pointed out that the U.S. stock market accounts for more than 60% of the value of the global stock market. 16 years ago, the U.S. stock market fell to its lowest point in modern times. In the early 21st century, European and emerging market stock markets continued to rise. However, by March 2008, the United States fell into recession and a financial crisis was imminent. The U.S. stock market accounts for less than 40% of the total global stock market capitalization. But today the situation is completely different. The United States' share of global stock market capitalization has risen steadily over the past 15 years and has risen sharply this year. It now stands at 61%. That's a staggering advantage for a country that accounts for just over a quarter of global GDP. If we take into account the situation of the U.S. stock market itself, market concentration is even more extreme. Apple APL-US, Microsoft MSFT-US, and NVD-US alone account for 1/10 of the global stock market value. The U.S. stock market is absorbing investment funds from all over the world. Money is flowing through trust funds at an all-time high, and major indexes have hit new highs in recent days. After 22 years, the total market value of listed companies has reached more than half of the world's total. A strong investor base creates strong technology companies, which in turn attract new capital inflows. The policies of the new Trump administration in the United States may lead to further concentration of funds, and the market is beginning to realize the risks. Investors around the world, from retail investors to professional institutions, are investing in the U.S. stock market. Data from research firm EPFR Global show that inflows into U.S. stock funds have reached $440 billion this year, exceeding the high for the whole of 2021. European stock funds have faced outflows for 22 consecutive months, while emerging market stock markets, including China and Japan, have shown sluggish growth. The U.S. stock market is clearly in a strong position. Japan also has a fund that symbolizes being taken away by the U.S. stock market, and that is Mitsubishi UFJ Asset Management's U.S. Stock Investment Trust, EMAXI's Slim U.S. Stocks, S&P 500. Recently, as a domestic public fund in Japan, excluding exchange-traded funds (ETFs), the net assets of this fund exceeded 6 trillion yen for the first time, and personal funds continued to flow into the fund through Japan's NISA, Small Investment Tax Exemption System, account. A gathering of powerful enterprises. Intermittent inflows pushed up the stock prices of U.S. companies. The Dow Jones Industrial Average hit a three-day high on December 4th. Using quick FactSet data to calculate the dollar market value of global companies, we found that as of the end of November, the total market value of U.S. companies had reached $63 trillion, accounting for 51% of the world's total. The last time the U.S. share of global market capitalization exceeded 50% at the end of the month was in March 2002. During a period of economic stagnation, capital inflows accelerate. Among the top 100 companies in the world by total market value, 63 are American companies, a 70% increase from 37 at the end of 2010. This is mainly because technology companies such as Apple and Nvidia have risen during this period, while the United Kingdom, France, and the United States have failed to produce leading technology companies. The number of companies in countries such as Japan has declined. Trump's return to power may accelerate the concentration of funds in the United States. EPFR investment data shows that capital inflows are accelerating after the U.S. presidential election. If the tariff increase measures advocated by Trump are implemented, global trade will stagnate and hit the economies of Europe, China, and other countries, while American companies are expected to benefit from deregulation and extended tax cuts. There are almost no alternatives to U.S. stocks, said Dubravko Lakos-Bujas, chief equity strategist at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company, and others. Global investors have enjoyed high returns by holding U.S. stocks so far, but on the other hand, they have also begun to pay attention to the disadvantages of concentrated funds. Traditional long-term investors tend to diversify across assets and regions to protect against unexpected shocks. However, if you want to pursue high returns in the current global stock investment, it is difficult to actively increase investments outside of U.S. stocks. The effect of suppressing risk through diversification must be abandoned to a certain extent. Even as Europe, China, and emerging economies are impacted by Trump's America First policy, there is still uncertainty as to whether the U.S. economy can continue to maintain its extraordinary growth. If the United States experiences a shock similar to the 2008 Lehman crisis, investment assets that are overly focused on the United States will suffer huge losses. Patrick Brenner, head of investment at Schroders, a large British asset management company, pointed out that it is risky to concentrate funds in U.S. stocks, adding that, in pursuit of diversification effect, the U.S. dollar and gold are also an option. Gold's long-term returns considered to have a low correlation with stocks. Gold prices are at all-time highs, reflecting investor unease about U.S. dominance. New York is not only the richest financial city in the world, but also very rich in other areas such as society, culture, entertainment, architecture, food and transportation, social welfare, and medical system. Global community diversity. New York City's largest neighborhoods, the most diverse city in the world. According to 2022 estimates from the American Community Survey, the people in New York City who report the most ancestry are Dominican, 8.7%, Chinese, 7.5%, Puerto Rican, 6.9%, Italian, 5.5%, Mexican, 4.4%, Irish, 4.4%, Asian Indian, 3.1%, German, 2.9%, Jamaican, 2.4%, Ecuadorian, 2.3%, British, 2.1%, Polish, 1.9%, Russians, 1.7%, Arabs, 1.4%, Haitians, 1.4%, Guyanese, 1.3%, Filipinos, 1.1%, and Koreans, 1.1%. Immigrants in New York speak more than 800 languages. New York City English and the New York accent. The New York area has a distinct regional accent and speech patterns known as the New York dialect. Culture. New York's immigrants bring rich and colorful cultures from all over the world to the Big Apple. New York City is often the setting for novels, movies, and television shows, and is known as the cultural capital of the world. The city is the birthplace of many cultural movements, including the Harlem Renaissance in literature and the visual arts, abstract expressionism and painting, known as the New York School. and hip-hop, punk, hardcore, thrash, and rockin' music. Sasha, freestyle, Tin Pan Alley, some forms of jazz, and, with Philadelphia, disco. New York City is considered the dance capital of the world. One of the most common characteristics of New York City is its fast pace, which gave rise to the term New York moment. New York City residents have a long history of being known for their resilience, most recently through their successful response to the terrorist attacks of September 11th and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. New York is ranked the world's most resilient city in 2021 and 2022. Theater. Broadway Theaters and Theater District in Manhattan, Booth Theaters in the Theater District. Manhattan is the central hub of American theater and is divided into three parts: Broadway, Off-Broadway, and Off-Off-Broadway. Many movie and television stars rose to fame working in New York productions. Broadway theaters are among the world's premier English-language theaters. Global poll of city dwellers. Manhattan. Golden Jacobs, Schoenfeld, named after Broadway, the main thoroughfare that runs across Times Square and is sometimes referred to as Broadway Avenue. The 41 venues, mostly located in Midtown Manhattan's Theater District, each have at least 500 seats and are classified as Broadway theaters. The 2018-19 Broadway theater season set records with total attendance of 14.8 million and gross revenue of $1.83 billion. After recovering from the coronavirus shutdown, revenue rebounded to $1.58 billion in 2022-23, with total attendance reaching 12.3 million. The Tony Awards recognize excellence in live Broadway theater and are presented at an annual ceremony in Manhattan. Architecture. New York City has a wide variety of architectural styles and periods, from the Dutch colonial Peter Cleesen Wyckoff House in Brooklyn, the oldest part of which dates to 1656, to the modern One World Trade Center, the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan, and the site skyscraper, and the most expensive office building in the world. With its numerous skyscrapers, Manhattan's skyline has become recognized as an iconic symbol of the city, which is home to several of the tallest buildings in the world. As of 2019, New York City has 6,455 high-rise buildings, the third most in the world after Hong Kong and Seoul. In 2024, New York will have 318 skyscrapers, making it the third most popular city in the world, followed by Hong Kong, 558, and Shenzhen, 414. Art. Lincoln Center, David H. Koch Theater, home of the New York City Ballet. Metropolitan Opera Center, home of the Metropolitan Opera. David Geffen Hall, Wright, home of the New York Philharmonic Museum of Fine Arts, the largest art museum in the Americas. Located in Lincoln Square on Manhattan's Upper West Side, the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts is home to numerous influential arts organizations, including the Metropolitan Opera, New York City Opera, the New York Philharmonic, and the New York City Ballet, as well as the Vivian Bauhaus, the Monty Theater, the Juilliard School, Jazz at Lincoln Center, and Alice Tully Hall. The Lee Strasberg Institute for Theater and Film is located in Union Square. The Tisch School of the Arts is located at New York University, and Central Park Summer Stage presents free concerts in Central Park. New York City is home to more than 2,000 arts and cultural organizations and more than 500 art galleries. The city provides more funding for the arts each year than the National Endowment for the Arts. The city is also home to hundreds of cultural institutions and historical sites. Museum Mile is a section of Fifth Avenue located in the upper half of Carnegie Hill on Manhattan's Upper East Side, from 82nd to 105th Streets. 9 museums occupy this section of Fifth Avenue, making it one of the densest displays of high culture in the world. Food. New York City's food culture includes an array of international cuisines influenced by the city's long immigrant history. Central and Eastern European immigrants, especially Jewish immigrants from those regions, brought New York-style bagels, cheesecakes, hot dogs, scones, and delis to the city. Italian immigrants brought New York-style pizza and Italian cuisine to the city, while Jewish and Irish immigrants brought pastrami and corned beef, respectively. Chinese and other Asian restaurants, sandwich shops, diners, eateries, and cafes can be found throughout the city. About 4,000 mobile food vendors are licensed by the city. The New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene assigns letter grades to restaurants in the city based on inspections. As of 2019, there are 27,043 restaurants in New York City, up from 24,865 in 2017. Queens Night Market at Flushing Meadows Corona Park attracts more than 10,000 people each night to sample fashion. New York City is the fashion capital of the world, with the fashion industry employing 4.6% of the city's private workforce. New York Fashion Week, NYFW, is a highly anticipated biannual event where models showcase the latest garments designed by fashion designers from around the world before they hit the market. Nicknamed Fashion Avenue, 7th Avenue is home to many world-renowned fashion companies and designers. Procession. New York City is famous for its street parades, most of which are in Manhattan. The main direction of the annual street procession is usually from north to south, along the main avenues. The annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade is the largest parade in the world. The New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade, the New York City LGBT Pride Parade, the Greenwich Village Halloween Parade, the Broadway Canyon of Heroes, the Flushing Chinese New Year Parade, and the Brooklyn Mermaid Parade always attract crowds. Physical education. The U.S. Open at Flushing Meadows Corona Park in Queens. Citi Field, also located in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, has been the home of the New York Mets since 2009. Yankee Stadium in the Bronx is home to the New York Yankees and New York City FC. Barclays Center, home of the NBA's Brooklyn Nets and the WNBA's New York Liberty. Madison Square Garden, home of the NBA's New York Knicks and the NHL's New York Rangers. New York City is home to the headquarters of the National Football League, Major League Baseball, the National Basketball Association, the National Hockey League, and Major League Soccer. Human Resources, and the New York University School of Medicine in Manhattan. Public Safety. The New York Police Department, NYPD, is the largest police force in the United States, with more than 36,000 sworn officers. Transportation. Main article. Transportation in New York City. Rapid transit. New York City, where most public transportation operates 24 hours a day, accounts for 1/3 of all public transportation users nationwide, and 2/3 of the nation's rail riders live in the New York City metropolitan area. The bus. New York City's public bus fleet operates 24 hours a day and is the largest in North America. The Port Authority Bus Terminal is New York City's primary intercity bus terminal and the world's busiest bus terminal, with 7,000 buses serving 250,000 passengers daily. Railway. Main article, New York City Subway. The New York City subway system is the largest rapid transit system in the world, measured by both operating stations, 472, and line length. Almost all of New York's subway systems are open 24 hours a day. New York is the only U.S. city where a majority, 52%, of households do not own a car. Only 22% of Manhattanites own a car. New York City's commuter rail network is the largest in North America. The rail network connecting New York City and its suburbs consists of the Long Island Railroad, Metro-North Railroad, and New Jersey Transit. The combined system, converging at Grand Central Terminal and New York Penn Station, includes more than 250 stations and 20 rail lines. New York City is served by Amtrak, whose busiest station is Pennsylvania Station on the west side of Manhattan, from which Amtrak provides connections to Boston, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. along the Northeast Corridor, as well as long-distance trains to other North American cities. Serve. Aviation. Main article. Aviation in the New York metropolitan area. The three busiest airports in the New York metropolitan area are John F. Kennedy International Airport, 55.3 million passengers, Newark Liberty International Airport, 43.6 million passengers, and LaGuardia Airport, 29 million passengers, with 127.9 million passengers using these three airports. Bridges and tunnels. More information. List of bridges and tunnels in New York City and the Commissioner's Plan of 1811. New York City has many important bridges and tunnels. The George Washington Bridge, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, the longest suspension bridge in the Americas and one of the longest in the world. The Brooklyn Bridge, the Queensboro Bridge, the Manhattan Bridge, the Luntz Neck and Whitestone Bridges, the Triborough Bridge, and Lincoln Tunnel. Lincoln Tunnel, Holland Tunnel, Queens Midtown Tunnel, Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. New York City is a global center for business and trade and is sometimes referred to as the capital of the world. The greater New York City area is the largest metropolitan economy in the world, with an estimated 2022 gross metropolitan product of $2.16 trillion. New York's real gross domestic product, GDP, per capita in 2023 was $90,730, the highest in the U.S., higher than the top 6 European countries, Norway, $87,962, and twice the EU average, $40,824. New York's real gross domestic product, GDP, per capita in 2023 is also higher than that of Asia's richest country, Singapore, $81,695, IMF. The gap in GDP per capita between New York City and European cities will continue to widen in the future.